afternoon, everyone. This is the opening of the Advancement Committee, and I wanted to welcome our new board members to the committee. Dan Brody, Marvin Gillum, and David Webb.
No problem.
And to welcome back our members, John Now, who's the vice chair, Bert Ellis, Paul Harris, Doug Wetmore, and Robert Hardy, who's ex officio. So, very good committee, and I look forward to working with you throughout this year. We've come recently to call this the Good News Committee, because every time we have a meeting, it seems we have some good news, and today will be no exception. So I look forward very much to this meeting. And we do have a special guest joining us today, and President Ryan will have the opportunity to introduce them a little later on as part of the philanthropic gift discussion. And I welcome back to the committee someone that many of us in this room have had the privilege of working with and knowing, Cindy Fredrick, who's the University Advancement Senior Associate Vice President of Engagement. And Cindy will be joining Mark Luellen in a few minutes for an update on fundraising and our campaign progress. For those of you who don't know Cindy, she is considered one of the top alumni relations and engagement professionals in the country, and consistently is being asked to lead efforts in this field on the national level. We think she is truly the best of the best, and I'm very pleased that she's here with us today. We have a couple of items on the docket. The first is a consent agenda item, which we have annually, and that is to confirm the Board of Visitor Representatives to the university's various foundation boards. And this resolution can be found on page 2 and 3 of your committee book. And so I would ask if there is a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, and the ayes have it. Thank you. I've just said nice things about Cindy. Mark and Cindy are going to give us the fundraising and campaign progress report. And let me say just a word about Mark. As I said, that Cindy was the best of the best. Clearly, Mark Luellen has established himself as the best of the best in terms of people who are in the higher ed advancement world. And so we're so fortunate that he's part of us and has done such a great job. And so now let me turn this over to Mark and Cindy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for those kind words. Thank you, Mr. Rector and the board, for the opportunity to be here today. We have a full agenda, as the chairman said, so I'm going to try to move through our part fairly quick. Plus, I want to leave plenty of time for Cindy to talk about a few topics here as well. I'm going to hit on three things, or we're going to hit on three things here today. The first is philanthropic progress report of where we stand last year and so far this year. The second is a update both culturally and operationally on some things that we're doing in advancement. And then Cindy is going to talk a little bit about undergraduate alumni participation rates and some of the work that we've been doing there and how that's bucking national trends. But before I get into that, I have a little bit of an overdue introduction that I should have done in June, and I just forgot, and I apologize for that. But I want to introduce someone that a few of you probably know from your previous role on the board or previous time at the university, and that is Penny Cavanis. I think Penny's back there. Penny, what you may not know about Penny is she recently joined my team as Associate Vice President and Chief of Staff. Prior to that, she's an alumna of the university and served alongside Colette Sheehy for 20 years, and most recently as Assistant Vice President and Chief of Staff for Colette. I have known Penny pretty much since the day I arrived on grounds, and I have to say she's one of the kindest, most competent, and hardest working people that I actually know on grounds. And so I'm thrilled that she decided to do this, and if the board wouldn't mind, I'd like to ask for you to help me join me in recognizing Penny on her promotion or new role. and knowing Penny, she hated every part of that. So I'm going to jump right to the philanthropic progress report. Since the last time we had a committee meeting, obviously we've had some great success as we closed out the end of fiscal year 24. Fiscal year 24 was a very, very strong year across grounds as we look at the philanthropic impact that we've seen. We documented $620 million in total commitments last year, which was the second highest in the history of the university. That is also the 7th year in a row that we have crossed 500 million in total commitments philanthropically. Cash receipts also had a very strong year. For those of you who are new to the board, cash receipts are actually gifts we get in directly. They are realized bequests. It is not commitments or pledges, but actually cash on the barrelhead. And this was the 6th year in a row that we've crossed 350 million. We had 385 million in cash here last fiscal year. We also had the highest number of gifts of $1 million or more last year. For the Honor the Future campaign, we had 102 gifts of $1 million or more. We've been trying to break the 100 number for a while. It's been a high bar, but thankful to people being extremely generous. We had over 100 last year, which made up about 62% of the total philanthropy across the university. I've mentioned several times before some of the work that we've done around gift planning and some major changes we made there a few years ago to really prepare for philanthropic growth. And I would be remiss if I didn't give a special shout out to Heather Engel, who's not here today, but she heads our gift planning team and also our corporate and foundation relations team. Just to give an example of the change that we've had under Heather's leadership, last year we had 227 million in one form of a planned gift. That could be a trust, that could be a bequest, that could be a gift annuity. And that's a 175% increase over the previous year and a 70% increase over our 10-year average. So this is an area we really wanted to grow, and we thought there was a lot of growth opportunity, and Heather's doing a great job. As it relates to fiscal year 25, so far it's only obviously 2 months into the year, but we're happy with where things stand so far. If you look at where we compare over the first couple months of last fiscal year, we're tracking 38% ahead on total commitments and 35% ahead on cash. I do want to note that last year in the fall, we had two very generous commitments of $50 million or more. And so those were great, and it's obviously something that we look at the future, we're planning for. But I have to say, when I look at the total number of gift conversations that are going on in all the foundations at the university right now, I think the pipeline is probably the strongest I've ever seen it in the last 10 years. So I feel pretty confident that even though we had some great success here last fall, that we will surpass that as we go into next year. Outside of giving, I wanted to give a couple updates, as I mentioned, on some operational and cultural topics as they relate to advancement. The first is an update on advancements in operations improvements in gift processing, a new CRM for those of you who are not familiar with that title, Customer Relationship Management System, and also on staff retention before turning it over to Cindy. To the first point on advancement operations, as you think about gift processing, some of you who have been on the board for a while know that about 4 years ago we made some pretty significant changes in how we are looking at processing commitments around grounds and actually opening the mail, how we recognize them, how we record them, and how we acknowledge people. To put this in perspective, we do about 125,000 individual transactions a year. And part of the reason we decided to make some changes is we had some problems on our error rate that were way outside of industry norms and felt that we had to really look into this. I'm happy to say that as we looked at the end of the fiscal year, best in class service in gift processing is about a 1% error rate. And we finished this last year at a 0.06% error rate on about 125,000 transactions. Even in the month of June, which is always our second biggest month of the year due to the end of the fiscal year, we had a 0.03% error rate in transactions. So again, that's the side of the business that isn't always the most exciting, but it's very important to us as we think about overall relationships with donors and with the appropriate stewardship of their philanthropy. I would be remiss to say that a lot of this is due to the great work and vision of Julie Featherstone, our Senior Associate Vice President of Operations. Cindy really drove this charge along with our outsourced partner, CDS Global. And beyond the efficiency that we've seen, we've also seen a pretty big significant decrease in expenses. Since we outsourced a lot of this and worked with CDS Global, we've actually saved about $4 million in addition over the last 4 years on our back-end operations by making this change. I also want to talk a little bit about, outside of gift processing, about the CRM. This is a major process improvement that we need to make and needed to make. I remember when I first came here, there was concerns about the database and infrastructure we had, but there was actually a bigger issue at the time than just that, and it was the number of individual technologies that were used across the advancement community that didn't talk to each other. So to put a specific number on that, we had about 130 different technologies across advancement, whether they be in the foundations or the university, that didn't talk to each other in our tech stack, which was a little bit problematic and had some issues, obviously, with how we communicated with our alumni and friends. We have, over the last 7 or 8 years, have reduced that tech stack to about 30 individual technologies, while at the same time making a lot of investments in the technology. And it's been really a partnership with the foundations as well. They all have representation on some of the planning on how we go about investing in such technology. But the biggest one, we needed to do that first before we moved to our CRM transition. Sometimes universities do this at the end of a campaign, meaning wait to the end of the campaign to start. And I really wanted to start before the campaign ended, so that when the campaign ended, we were done and ready to roll. So we are 2 years into a 3-year implementation on implementing Salesforce at the university. I'm also glad we waited a little bit, because I will say that there were a lot of institutions around the country, whose names I won't mention, who went first, and let's just say our cost was a lot less. So we learned a lot by not being the first out of the gate and working a little bit on our tech stack. I will also say that as we've partnered with Augie and others, as we've looked at the procurement on a lot of these back-end firms and things that we can work with, it's actually saved us about $500,000 a year by going through this too. So beyond just the contract with Salesforce and being more affordable, it's actually allowed us to look at all of our business operations and save some money. The last thing I wanted to say on the culture update, and this is probably, I know everyone can get excited, myself included, about the numbers, but this is probably the area that I'm the most excited about. We started something about 4 years ago where we actually did an annual survey of the staff and the team in advancement, just to get a sense of how they're feeling about whether their professional goals were being met, whether or not they felt included in decision-making, whether or not they felt welcome in all things that we did. And this was, I think, a very good focal point for us, because it wasn't just qualitative, it was also quantitative. We could look at some of the feedback that we're receiving for the team. And we just finished one here recently, and we just got the results back, so I thought I would share a little bit with the board. So this has been helpful. In the first part, our retention rate is now at 92%, which, if you look across advancement organizations in higher education, they're usually around 90%. Obviously, everyone had struggles during COVID. Ours were in the 70 to 75% range after coming out of COVID, as were everybody's on labor issues, but we're glad to see that grow here over the last couple years. I think one of the biggest factors of that is the investment we've made in professional development opportunities for our colleagues across the grounds. We just finished something that we call the Week of Learning. I know some of the administrators in the room have participated in that. Colette was there for our last one. Ian has been involved. The president has shown up at times for different events. We actually hold about 50 professional development opportunities for the staff in a 1-week session. It consolidates it, everything from technology to relationship building to how to use systems to role playing, you name it. So we try to consolidate it all into a couple weeks a year. But that has been very helpful, and here at the session we had this summer in August, 77% of the team participated in the Week of Learning. The last two numbers I just want to share, which sum up the survey, which really talk about satisfaction in their roles and how they're feeling. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure in the work that we do to continue to drive private philanthropy and to engage our constituents. But these were the two stats that I really wanted to share with everybody. In the survey we performed in 2020, only 71% of our staff felt that their professional goals were being met. That we were we doing enough to help them grow their career? And we just finished the survey, as I mentioned, and we are now at 91% of the staff feeling their professional goals are being met with an advancement. Similarly, we have another statistic here that felt their working relationships within advances were satisfying. And if you look at the survey we had in 2020, 78% felt that they were satisfied in their work. And the survey from last month came in at 97% feel that they're satisfied. So those of you who know me know I'm pretty competitive. I don't think we'll get to 100, no matter how hard we try. But I do think this is a pretty good benchmark for not only the overall philanthropic performance, but how the team is feeling right now as we go into the last year of the campaign. So I do want to introduce Cindy to give her plenty of time before we introduce our friends who are here today. As LF said, Cindy has been with the university a long time and has done just a tremendous job for us in a variety of fronts. And several years ago, after the encouragement of the president, we decided to make a more concentrated effort around undergraduate alumni participation. And this is, I think you'll find this very interesting because it is, when you look at the data across the country, it's a little scary, but I think we're in a good spot. So I won't steal any of Cindy's thunder, and I'll turn it over to her.
Great. Thanks so much, Mark. Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Visitors, President Ryan, it is my pleasure to be with you all today. And it is a good news committee, and I'm here to bring some really great news to you all. I'm excited to highlight our efforts over the last several years in our annual giving and our alumni participation rates, and the important role that they play in the University of Virginia's financial health, our reputation, and our ways of engaging our alumni and parents and friends. I'm proud to share that the University of Virginia continues to be a leader in this effort, setting a very high standard among our peers and setting a very high bar not only for our peers but also for ourselves. Annual gifts of all size matter. They provide crucial support to our schools, to our student services, to our healthcare, to our research, to our athletics, and so much more. And we are so thankful for all of our donors. But over the last 5 years, as Mark mentioned, as we have approached the conclusion of the Honor the Future campaign, the university across our advancement community, university advancement, schools, units, centers, the Alumni Center or Alumni Association, we have doubled down on our efforts to increase annual giving participation, specifically with our alumni. My office has collaborated with these individuals with a focused strategy to increase annual giving, cultivating our future pipeline of loyal donors. This past year, as Mark said, we had record numbers and the most donors ever. 81,000 alumni, parents, and friends made a gift, setting this record, and 60% were our alumni. In our field, alumni participation is really a key metric, specifically undergraduate participation. And what this is it's the percentage of alumni from the entire alumni population. So it's that percentage that people are looking at and setting that bar. However, alumni participation in that number, it goes much beyond the number. It's a powerful statement about our community. Higher alumni participation rates enhance our reputation. They reflect the value alumni put on their UVA experience. And although U.S. News & World Report no longer includes undergraduate participation rates in their ranking system, it's still incredibly important for us. It's a source of pride amongst our peers, and most importantly, it's an important indicator of our alumni's connection and involvement and love for the University of Virginia. As you can see from this chart, UVA, or the orange, up on top, we lead the way among public institutions in alumni participation rates. We have not only defied the national downward trend following the pandemic, but we've also made steady progress toward the pre-pandemic giving goals. Although our APR has slightly decreased since 2019, this is because the number of alumni graduating each year is growing faster than our alumni donor counts. But despite that, we have seen positive donor growth. So it goes down a little bit, but in fact, we have 4,000 more alumni donors in fiscal year 2024 compared to fiscal year 2019. While other public peers such as UNC, Berkeley, UCLA continue to see declines, UVA's participation rate has climbed back, and we are even outpacing many of our private peers. In the last fiscal year, we reached a 19% undergraduate APR with 32,000 undergraduate donors, a significant achievement that sets us apart from all others. Our success reflects a combination of strategic efforts and the dedication of our alumni. I'm often asked by our peers, and we get together on a regular basis, and they often say, why is UVA so special? What is your secret sauce? Why are you, this is justifying everything. And I really believe that it is our collective values, it's our collective efforts across grounds, it's our creative tactics, and it's, most importantly, our loyal alumni base that are driving the success. We have developed innovative approaches to engaging alumni, particularly those giving at levels of under $100 to connect donors of all ages. We've put special emphasis on our fourth-year student giving, our young alumni. We want giving and participation at every level of our pipeline. Over the past 3 years, we've developed many new strategies that are driving these results. And first, I want to talk about how UVA has been a leader in something brand new in our engagement alumni relations industry, and that is integrating giving with events. So UVA is also a leader in the number of events that we do for our constituents. And last year, University Advancement, schools, the Alumni Association produced over 1,600 events across the United States and across the globe. So as we thought about strategy, we decided to seize this opportunity. We have a lot of people who are saying yes to events. Would they say yes to giving? This past year, 3,000 unique donors, when they came to register for an event, either opted in or were part of a gift for us. And that's a 123% increase over last year. One example is our Lifetime Learning Program that puts faculty in lectures and online resources, and we often give our folks joining in, who are joining free of charge, an opportunity to support their passion. This past year, the #1 talk that received the largest gifts was a talk on Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry. Another driver of our events, or the lead producer of events at the University of Virginia, is our UVA Clubs program, which is now in 110 regions across the world. These clubs are run by 800 dedicated volunteers, and over the last several years, we've enlisted them in helping educate, communicate, inform them of the importance of giving back and annual giving. We have club leaders, again, from every age across our spectrum, but we have a lot of young alumni who step up, who step into these leadership positions. And I'm proud to say that just this past year, 60% of our alumni UVA club leaders made an annual gift last year, and that's up from 45% 5 years ago. One of our also new initiatives have been our premium campaigns, where donors make a gift and in appreciation receive a token back. You might have seen the campaigns for socks, for the 1974 hat campaign for coeducational women, or a Run with Jim shirt for the Boston Marathon. These premium campaigns netted over 10,000 donors during last year. And most importantly, the money was great, the participation was great, but I loved watching social media, seeing the socks, seeing the hats, a source of pride. And so anyone who participated in our premium campaigns became a brand ambassador for the University of Virginia in the communities where they live. But we are also always modifying and looking at our strategy of what works and what doesn't work. In fiscal year 20, we used to have a one day of giving. Many of you might have remembered it was called Giving to Who's Day. And that was a prime driver amongst our peers of getting a lot of donors in the door on one day. Through evaluation, through collaboration with our schools, we looked at the time and investment, and we decided to buck the trend and move from one giving day to multiple micro campaigns. Actually, those take less time than one day, but those 30 campaigns that we did last year netted us 30 campaigns for an increase of 120%. So our donor base is much higher doing multiple campaigns. You might have remembered or saw our campaign celebrating Larry Sabato's 70th birthday. That won multiple awards at the national level of being innovative, creative, and a great way to do a micro campaign. As I mentioned before, APR is more than a number. Annual giving is often the first step in the long-term journey of our support of our alumni. Many of our most significant gifts start with a gift of $25. A remarkable example is our recent $10 million planned gift from a couple who over the last 37 years have made annual gifts of a nominal size. They have also attended over 200 in-person and online engagement events. Their journey from a loyal engagement to a transformational impact predicts and illustrates the lifelong bonds that our alumni have with our university. As we celebrate the incredible successes of our major gifts, we also honor the tens of thousands alumni who say yes to the university with a gift of 5, 10, 25, 100, whatever is most meaningful to them. These dedicated supporters really embody the spirit of UVA, demonstrating loyalty, pride, and commitment to paving the way for the future generations. So thank you for your time today. This is a good news, and I'm filled really with joy and gratitude for our amazing alumni and our Fuller community. Together, we are not only just maintaining our UVA status, but we're propelling the University of Virginia forward. Here's to our continued success and to the power of the UVA family. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Cindy. I just have two quick follow-up points before we turn the microphone back over to the chairman. First of all, as Cindy said, we're doing a lot of these micro campaigns. So a simple way to think about that is if you see me with a Run with Jim t-shirt, I did not run. I just made a gift. But all joking aside, I think the greatest highlight of the day is that we are now, due to the generosity of so many and the hard work of the team, we are now over $5.3 billion in the Honor the Future campaign as we continue moving forward, and actually are over that by a decent amount now. So a special thank you to this committee. Thank you for all of your support. And I don't know if we have time, Mr. Chairman, for any questions, but if we don't, happy to take them later in between meetings.
Questions for Mark or for Cindy?
Cindy, I have one quick question. Thanks for the presentation and the work. I think you mentioned that 60% of the gifts came from alumni, which means 40% didn't. That seems high to me, and I wonder, how does that compare to other institutions?
So our alumni giving is a little bit higher than others. I think our other folks, the other category are parents, they're friends of the university, their organizations, their foundations. Some of our alumni who are part of organizations, they're accounted in that factor. And so for ours, 60% is quite high.
Jim, I would make one additional comment, because I'm always staggered by this number. If you look at the entire Honor the Future campaign from the beginning to now, we're at about 241,000
Yep,
in that
very
range.
close, yep.
241,000 individual donors. And so when you compare that with an alumni base of about 270,000 people, obviously not all of them are alums, but it's a pretty big percentage when you look at the overall goal. So we're really striving to try to hit 250 by the end of next summer. I don't know if we'll get there, but that's our goal, and that's what we're striving for.
So let me just say thank you again to Mark and Cindy for providing these updates, but also for all that you've done to make us so successful And congratulations, this is 2024, fiscal year 2024 was another great year. And thank you and all the staff for making that happen. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
So before I turn this over to President Ryan, I also, on behalf of the committee, wanted to say to him, thank you very much, because you are our star in terms of advancement activities. You have a very busy job, you have a lot going on, but you're always willing to do extra things in order to help us succeed in terms of advancement. And it's not only you, it's Ian, and certainly it's Craig, it's the deans, the whole, your whole leadership staff. So thank you very much for all you do. And please give them a round of applause. Let me turn it over to President Ryan.
All right, thank you, LF. So consistent with this being the Good News Committee, I have the pleasure and honor to announce a very generous gift that will support new scholarships. I have to say, this is one of the best parts of this job, hands down, because this sort of gift, if you think about it, is really about the willingness of our alumni and friends to invest in UVA to ensure that future students have the same life-changing experiences that they had. And today, I am thrilled to announce a $10 million gift from Scott and Beth Stevenson to create the Stevenson Scholars Program at the School of Data Science. Their commitment will be matched with an additional $10 million from the university's Bicentennial Scholarship Fund for a total investment of $20 million. And I think that deserves a round of applause. So let me tell you a little bit more about the scholarships and then about Beth and Scott. So these scholarships will provide support to outstanding students in the School of Data Science who also have financial need. This will mean that students from all walks of life can pursue study and start a career in the growing and increasingly critical field of data science. The scholarships are designed to enable their recipients to fully engage with all the university has to offer inside and outside of the classroom, including internships and practicums. The gift represents a tremendous opportunity to raise the profile of our newest school, not that it really needs any help in terms of its profile, but also to recruit talented students interested in data science to come to UVA. This gift coincides nicely with the launch of the School of Data Science's undergraduate degree program, and I think this synergy will attract a very good deal of attention. So Beth and Scott are with us today, and we'll hear from them in a second, but let me tell you a little bit about them first. Beth and Scott have been extraordinarily generous supporters of UVA. They funded the directorship of the Data Science Institute, and they later created the endowed Dean's Chair that Phil Bourne holds. They've supported the university's Cavalier Fund as well, which provides funding to students with financial needs so that they can take part in the full experience of the clubs and organizations on offer at UVA without cost as a barrier. Scott is an alum. He was a mechanical engineering major at UVA, and he holds an MBA from the Harvard Business School. He's the founder of SGS Capital and former chairman, president, and CEO of Versic Analytics. Scott serves as one of the vice chairs of the Honor the Future Campaign Executive Committee and is a volunteer chair of the advisory board of the School of Data Science. Beth graduated from Dartmouth with a bachelor's degree in history and has an MBA from Stanford University Graduate School of Business, but still loves UVA above both of those institutions. She has spent most of her career in private equity, including serving as a founding member of Willis Stein & Partners in Chicago. She's a former board chair at Opportunity Transformation Investments and has served on several other boards. I am personally grateful to the two of them for their support, their counsel, and their leadership, but perhaps most of all for their friendship over the last 6+ years. And I'm delighted that they continue to partner with us on data science and to invest in UVA. So Scott and Beth, thank you again, and please join us.
thank you, Jim. That was extraordinarily kind and gracious of you. And we would like to start by offering a few thank yous ourselves. First, to the entire board. Thank you for everything you do to support and facilitate and advance this school that we all love. And Jim mentioned that I used to be the CEO of an S&P 500 company. When we were having a board meeting, there were 12 of us. We closed the door, that was it. We were in the room by ourselves. You know, the work that you do is played out in the public domain. I'm sure that adds a little extra spice to the gumbo from, time to time. But your willingness to take on the work and to, love and care for our university is so deeply appreciated. So thank you. Jim, we also want to thank you for your always-on leadership here at the university, which we consider absolutely essential, especially in this moment, which we feel carries so much opportunity for the university, but it's a moment of great change as well. And so we need and rely upon your leadership and are just very, very grateful for you manning the post, every day and doing it with the excellence that you do. We also want to thank both Mark Luellen and also Phil Bourne, who were our partners in coming up with the specific contours of the design of this program, and maybe we can just say a word about the design in just a moment, but they were very patient with us. We are going to need to send both of them extra large fruit baskets at Christmas for the rest of our lives, because we would work through detail and then we would sort of rip that up a little bit and come up with some additional ways of thinking about it, and they were so patient with us, more than we really deserved. And I think, Mark, if I'm not incorrect, I think the very first thought about a scholarship program and related to the bicentennial scholars program, I think that was a discussion that you and I had over lunch. And so, from the germ of the idea to the final design of the program, we have been very, very highly supported by these two wonderful men and professionals and friends. And so thank you to both of you. Putting together this program was actually very natural for us for three reasons, in no particular order. The first one is that we have, meaning me, we have a direct experience of the value of a technical education against the backdrop of the great breadth of this university and its remarkable liberal arts tradition. And I've had the privilege in the course of my career at many stages to engage in work which very highly technical, actually. And so the technical dimension of the education I received has always been very evident to me. But I would also say that, for example, the very first job I had when I came out of UVA was designing parts of missile propulsion systems. It was very, very much, engineering bench work. And but the most important decision I had to make in those 2 years before I went off to graduate school actually was primarily ethical in its dimensions. And if I'd gone to MIT or Caltech or a very, very technical university, maybe I would have had something in the educational experience that would help. But I know for certain that I was given a broader education here, and it was so helpful to me as I tried as a 22, 23-year-old to work through some of these questions that went well beyond the technical. And I've really fed off of that two-sided foundation my entire career. And so it's really valuable to receive technical education in an environment like this one. And we know that from our own experience. The second reason this came so naturally for us is that Beth and I have 3 kids, and we had the privilege through a combination of resources on hand and scholarship monies that were available to see all 3 of our kids graduate from their undergraduate studies debt-free. And what we saw in all of their lives was basically the freedom of action and movement that provided to them, which allowed them to accelerate into the things that they were really passionate about. And we clearly saw the cause and effect relationship between what was their financial standing as they exited as undergraduates and where they were able to move to. And so it's just a very natural thought to want to see that extended to as many young scholars as can possibly be the case. And the third reason this is such a kind of a natural for us is we really, really believe that the School of Data Science is very strategic for the university for a whole host of reasons. And our first in the nation School of Data Science, it carries great strategic value. First of all, it's going to be a very popular degree with the undergraduates. I just think there's no question about that. As a function of that, the school then will be able to attract yet more and better faculty to be a part of the motion. And one of our hopes is that alongside all of the other great strengths of this university, that we can become yet better at nurturing and supporting research agendas. And the School of Data Science can definitely help play a leveraged role in that. But maybe above all of that, it would be just so wonderful if the overall level of data analytic competency across the entire university was lifted because of the School of Data Science. And it's just and Phil often talks about a school without borders, and I think that's a really good image, basically. And our hope is that methods which maybe grow up at the School of Data Science there at the corner of Emmett and Ivy just find their ways across the entire grounds. So 3 reasons why this was just really, really easy for us, even though we got so picky about some of the details that, I'm so happy that our partners hung with us. They were very gracious to do so. And just because we have the mic, maybe we could just offer 2 quick thoughts with respect to the School of Data Science and really the field and what it might mean, for our beloved university going forward. Just a couple of ways to hold it, maybe. The first one is it's kind of a warning, actually, against what I see as a very widespread tendency, and that is it's very common and natural for folks to look at the field of data science and to see it as both methodological and technical, which it is, and then assume, therefore, that the people that ought to really be making all the decisions, whether it's investment into or the products thereof, and how does it all relate to the whole, that should also be in the hands of the technical people. And I would really actually just urge you to guard against that. Because in reality, in the modern world, the wise and effective and productive accumulation of data and then the deployment of an understanding of that data into what then should be done, what's understood, what should happen, that field is the handmaiden of every other domain of knowledge. Literally, it is of every one of them. And in fact, one of the things that is different today than was true 100 years ago, it used to be that a curious person who wanted to understand the world, they would start with an hypothesis, and then they would say, okay, in order to prove or disprove my hypothesis, what observations do I need to go make in order to understand whether that was a good hypothesis or not? So the scientific method, and we've just been doing it that way for centuries, and there's nothing wrong with that, and we'll continue to do it that way. But the new thing that's in the world now actually is that increasingly we can instrument the world and observe the world so that the world just actually kind of speaks to us. I mean, the volume of data and the amount of data which is being generated, and it's being generated not for any particular reason, but just because data now moves around in a way that it didn't. The volume of that, the frequency of that, the granularity of all of that data, there is another way to pursue, an additional way to pursue knowledge and insight, and that is to let the data tell you what the data mean, basically. And the field of data science is uniquely positioned to help that, but that can be as useful for a sociologist as it can be for somebody who's trying to work on programming, the next turn of a large language model. So that's the first point, is just let's not actually leave these technical methods, let's not assume that these technical methods, because they are methodological, all the decisioning around them should be in the hands of the technical people. I think that would be a mistake. And the second thought is, it's true today, it was true yesterday, and it will be true tomorrow, that in the field of data science, the leading edge of research and practice is in industry. It's not in the academy. It's always been the case, and it will always be the case. And the implication of that, well, there's a couple of implications of that to our way of thinking. One relates to this program, and the thought is simply that the most well-prepared students will be those that are both in a classroom and having a classroom experience, but also finding ways to practice, even while they're getting educated. And in order to have that experience occur, the linkage into and back and forth with industry can play a very, very major kind of a role. And so because the leading edge of practice is found in industry, you know, we just find ourselves paying attention to some educational institutions that have actually sort of taken a different path, and they have, I think, benefited for it. Just one I would mention real quick. I don't know if they are a benchmark or an analog that you all talk about very much, but Northeastern University in Boston. I think 20 years ago, and I still really don't think of Northeastern as a peer institution to UVA. However, I think about 20 years ago, maybe 30 to 35% of the kids who had applied to Northeastern were admitted. And I think in the most recent year, it was like 4%. It's become a much more exclusive school. And the primary change that the school undertook was a deep commitment to the notion of cooperative education. And so it's really built into the experience of most of the students at Northeastern. And you know, we could talk about, well, just how much does it contribute, how much does it accelerate, what have you. But it is interesting to see rising students voting with their feet. And that is a form of education that they're really interested in. And just as somebody who had the opportunity to make offers of employment to thousands of young people in our company, which was about data analytics and data science, you could have a student who shows up and they've had a great classroom experience and you can see that they've done very well in their studies. You could have that same student show up looking for a job, all of the same characteristics, and they've had some interesting experience along the way as well, some interesting applied experience. 99 times out of 100, the tie will go to that second student, not the first. And so just want to encourage you to think about really what is the definition of a technically grounded education, and how can it be created and structured in light of the fact that the leading edge of practice is actually not in the academy, it's outside of the academy. And I just think that if we can somehow keep that at the front of our minds, I think what we're doing is just going to be more and more and more relevant. And I have utter confidence in Phil. I know his commitments, and I just know that he cares about these things. But just thought, since we were here, just thought we would share with you those two perspectives about this particular domain. And again, thank you very much for having us. It's a privilege to be here, and we really appreciate all the work that you all do on behalf of the university. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth, would you like to add anything?
Oh.
I'll just add one thing, which is, or a couple things. As Scott said, it does come very naturally to us. We both had a transformative experience, undergrad and grad, but I'd say particularly undergrad. And, you know, we were born in this country. We benefited from our incredible universities, and we'd like to provide that opportunity to other people. And it's just the most natural thing to have benefited from those two things and to try to give back. And then I want to highlight what Scott said about the last part, the experiential learning. And Mark and Phil and teams were really very responsive to this. The exciting part of the Stevenson Scholars, or an exciting part, is there's going to be a lot of internship support. So there may be interesting companies or organizations that wouldn't be able to pay an intern But that young person has to make money just to pay for their education, and the Stevenson Scholarship will provide some support for that. So very practical ways to get experience and to continue your education. And we were having a lot of fun today brainstorming about how to make this operational, how to make it work. So we're excited for that, and our main focus is to support these young people. You just think about you're 18, you show up, you've got this wonderful thing, which is a summer vacation, which means that you can go to a company, you can do your best, you can say, I love it, you can say, I hate it, but there's no cost to that. So let's use those experiences, let's use that opportunity, let's gain that experience so that when you are graduating, you're really more fully formed. And we each had that experience, and we want to help provide that for others. So thank you for having us, and
Great.
we're excited.
May I say something? First, obviously, I want to thank you for such a generous gift. But now I'm going to ask for another gift. Don't worry, it's not money. It's better than money. You two are so beautifully and well-spoken. My request is that you come back to Charlottesville often and speak with our students so they can hear about your experiences and your dreams for them, because you're beautifully spoken. I'm blown away. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, Beth and Scott, this is David Webb. I want to say thank you too for the generous, tremendously generous gift. It's really inspirational to a lot of people. And I was going to ask what inspired you, but I think you spoke so well that I get it now. I would like to ask though, who do you think, given the broad applications of data science, I mean, who do you think you're going to draw? Which kids are you going to draw that would otherwise be doing what? Who do you think most of the kids will?
Maybe you'd like to reflect on a little bit of the conversation we had earlier today.
A really interesting aspect we learned today, which I've been reflecting on as just in the last hour, they've talked about really working on the curriculum so that it is not off-putting to people who may not have had as much technical support and training in high school. So they've brought calculus into the data science time rather than first year, so that the math can be done with support, and that there's a couple of tracks. And maybe my first reaction to that was, The second reaction was just what Scott was saying. We all are going to need to listen to the signals that are out there. And whether we are, had 800s on our math SATs or not, we need to be able to work in this field. And so it's exciting to me that I think there's actually a fairly broad funnel, a broad mouth to the funnel, of folks that can come in after their first year.
And just prompted by your question, your very good question, I'll just add that when applicants to the university are ticking off their first interest, this is primarily what I think I want to study, their second interest. I don't know how far down, is it just 2? I don't remember. 3? Thank you. I would like to thank you. I'd love to see some of those who had it marked second or third actually end up at the School of Data Science. I actually think that would be a success. If I think I'm interested, I think maybe I'm highly interested, maybe it's a little scary, and in reality, you're not leaving behind history or medicine. You're not leaving behind anything if you become more agile and fluent in data science methodology. So maybe some of those number 2 and number 3s, maybe they'll end up at the corner of Emmett and Ivy, and that would be great. That would be a good outcome.
But I think to that point, Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's already an incredibly popular minor, isn't it? So students who are majoring in something else are still interested in data science, and they come from a broad cross-section of majors.
Thank you.
Really quickly, we spoke earlier, Beth and Scott, thank you for your generosity on behalf of the board. We just can't tell you how transformational this gift is. I know we talked about our Dartmouth and UVA connections. I have strong affinity for both. My wife went to Dartmouth and my oldest son went to Dartmouth, but I have a little bit of a bias towards the university, but love both institutions. And it's just amazing that really your early stage investing in this institution and what it has created. Without your gift, I'm not sure we would have been able to attract Phil Bourne, and what an amazing transformational ascendancy the School of Data Science is experiencing. And now with your gift, we'll be able to attract students who before maybe wouldn't have come here. And as you said, gone somewhere else. And now they won't go to MIT, they won't go to Caltech, they'll come here because they'll not only get the extraordinary data training, but they'll also get the overall experience you talked about is management and having ethical training. So I think that's wonderful. So just on behalf of the board, thank you. We can't say thank you enough.
Thank you so much, yeah. By the way, we go on vacations routinely with a group that everybody's Dartmouth except me, but we also routinely go on vacations where everybody's UVA except Beth. And so after the meeting, if you want to ask us which of those two gatherings is more fun.
Well, I know we have Phil Bourne with us. Phil, would you like to say anything?
Only plus one to everything that's been said, and also just to say thank you so much, Beth and Scott. This is just really going to make all the difference in the world at a time in a program that's, as you've said so articulately, both of you, is really growing, is exploding. And I would just, the only other thing I'd add is I'd say it's a partnership. I think we saw that today, we've seen it in the past, and I know we're going to see it going forward. And it's just going to be something that I'm really looking forward to. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you very much. And Beth and Scott, Beth, I have a daughter who's a graduate of Dartmouth and has spent a fair amount of time in Hanover, and I really appreciate that institution and the education I know that you must have gotten there. But particularly wanted to say thank you to both of you. Someone who's not a UVA grad, but so supportive. And Scott, thank you for all that you all have done for the School of Data Science and for our students. And the gift will be, is so important to us now and will be as we look to the future. Wanted to also say to Phil, thank you for the great job you've done getting the school off the ground, not only off the ground, but really doing so well and being so recognized around the country. So with that, I will ask if there are any other comments from board members. And if not, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Back when I was a student and I was the education assistant.